All right, guys, so before we actually jump into code, it's always a good idea to map out your database schema, okay, before you do that, because you want to know exactly what you're doing, exactly what fields you're putting into your models. So usually the way that you figure this out is by looking at the requirements. What needs to be displayed on this in this application and in this website. So I have the initial requirements here, and then I have a text file called schemas.txt, and we're just going to map out our schema. Now, if you want to use more advanced software where you can have a little diagram with boxes that are connected and stuff like that, you can do that. I just want to keep it simple. So in this file, let's say model slash db fields. Okay, so basically we're going to have three separate tables for what we need, and one table is going to be listings, or I'll just call it listing because the model name will be singular, so we'll say listing, let's say realtor, and let's say contact. Okay, so basically listings are the property listings, so we have the realtors, and then contact is any inquiry that's made to the application should be saved in the database in a table, in a contact table. So let's start off by figuring out what fields the listings will have. Okay, now if we go down to the bottom here, we have listing page fields. So this is basically what they want displayed on the single listing page. So let's start off with just putting in an ID, because of course every table needs to have an ID column, and with Postgres, the way that things are set up, it's that ID will get put in automatically, and it will also be auto increment. So we don't have to worry about putting in the ID when we insert data. So an ID is going to be of the data type of int. All right. Now, we also want to connect realtors to listings, okay? Because each realtor is assigned a group of listings. So when we go to, like, let's say 45 Main Street, there should be a realtor that's in charge of 45 Main Street. So that means that we have to have a realtor field, okay? And it's going to be an integer, but it's going to be a foreign key field. So I'm going to say foreign key from the realtor table, or the realtor model. All right, that way we can associate an entire realtor and all of their fields with a listing. So that way, like if we wanted to display in their image or their name or their contact info in a listing page, we could do that because we have an entire realtor connected to the listing. So next thing we'll need is a title, as you can see in the document. So let's say title. Title is going to be a string. Let me just put a colon here. Okay, so we have title, we have address. In most cases, the title will be the address, but they'll have the option for it not to be. Also, you can see they want the whole address, so we'll also need a city, which will be a string. We'll need a state, string. Let's do zip code. Okay, so that's the address. We also want a description, which is actually not here, is it? It's actually not in the initial requirements. I may add it so you may see it, but it's not here. But we know that we do need a description. Okay, and that's going to be a string. Actually, that's going to be a text field, which is a little different because it's going to be longer. So we also want price. Okay, price is going to be an int. It's not going to be a float because there's not going to be any decimal points. We're not going to do cents on prices of homes, so an int is just fine. Let's see. We also want bedrooms and bathrooms. So bedrooms is going to be an int, just the number of bedrooms. Same thing with bathrooms. Okay, so let's see what else we want. Garage. Garage is going to be an int. It's the number of garage. We'll do 0 as the default. Let's see. We also want a list date. So let's do list underscore date. That's going to be of the type of date. So realtor name and image, this is going to come from this foreign key right here. So we'll be able to get anything about the realtor by forming that relationship. We also need the square feet and lot size. Forgot about that. So let's go right here. We'll say SQFT. That's going to be an int. And then lot size. So lot size is actually going to be a float because I want to be able to do, say, like 1.2 acres or 2.3 acres or something like that. So we'll say float for lot size. Let's see. So for images, we basically want to have one main image, and then it says 5 other images, but I want to do 6. So we're going to do, photo underscore main, which will be string. And just to be clear, we're not actually storing images in a database. We're storing the location of the image. That way we can fetch that location and we can simply put it into an image source so that it displays on the page. Okay, so we'll have the main image, and then we'll have photo underscore 1. And then we'll have 1 through 6. So I'm just going to copy that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll just go ahead and change these up. Oops. Okay, so 1 through 6. And that should do it for our listings. Okay, so these are all the fields that we're going to need in the listing model, and these will all get created as rows in the listings table in the database. So now let's do the realtor. So for realtor, we're going to have an ID. Okay, all tables will have an ID that will be an int. We're also going to want the realtor's name. So let's do string. And for name, it's going to be first and last name. I don't want to have them separate fields. Also photo, there should be one photo of the realtor. Also a description. So just like a short description. I'll say text for that. And let's see, we're going to want an email, a phone. Now remember they want the option to do a seller of the month, so we need a field for that, which will be a Boolean. That reminds me of something I forgot in the listings as well, which I'll get to. But I'm going to call this is MVP, just something short, just is MVP, and then that will be a Boolean. All right, now what I forgot up here in the listings is, remember, they also want the option to to publish and unpublish listings. So we need to add that as a field as well. So let's go right here and say is underscore published. Okay, and that's going to be a Boolean. And then in brackets here, let's put the default. So we want the default to be true. It should be published by default. All right. Also, garage, I want to have a default of 0. And then for the is MVP, of course, we want a default of 0. And the last thing we want for realtor is the hire date. Okay, so that's going to be a date. So that's just the date they were hired. All right, so I'm going to just save this so far. And now we just have the contacts. Okay, remember, contacts are just like the inquiries that are sent in. So each one will have an ID. Let me just move this up. All right, so we'll have an ID. Also, we want to know which user sent in that inquiry if the user is registered and logged in. So let's say user underscore ID, and that will be an int. And we also want to know the listing int, and I'm also going to do the listing ID. So the listing is actually going to be connected to the title or the name of the listing. And then the ID will obviously be the ID. Okay, we also want a name, which would be string. That'll be the name of the person that's sending in the inquiry. We want their email, phone, and a message. And then we also want a contact date, okay, which will be a date. And that's it. That's our entire schema. So when we create our models in Django, we want to model it after this file and after all of these fields. Okay, so that's all I wanted to do in this video, guys. In the next one, we'll start to actually create the models. All right, so I'll see you then.